We were able to catch up with design engineer Zach McGill and have a technical overview discussion on our hazardous location sensor line. Zach goes over the technical aspects of the product, the design inspiration, the various certifications it possesses. I hope you enjoy this technical overview, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thank you.
So talk to me about how rugged environments affect the design of Spot On.
Okay, so we kind of looked at what was out there in the market, what our customers, we designed similar products for like valve application, fluid processing when you look at hazardous location, and we wanted to try to design a product line that had breadth for different application types, and we also were taking in mind and in forefront that we were going to design for the most explosive hazardous environment possible. And so then we took into account all the external factors that were going to interact with the environment. But then we also looked at the internals, and we used our reed switch technology, our 50 years of experience of being the expert at really niche products to do the internal switching action differently than the competitive products out there, so that we could bring a well-rounded product that can handle power versatility, and then also be extremely reliable when you talk about how many cycles it could handle.
So whenever you're talking about how many cycles it can handle, I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about cycle-wise?
I mean, it depends on the load, obviously. So 20 years ago, a lot of stuff was more on running maybe starting a relay near a cap, might be starting a cap motor directly in line with the sensor. That's not predominant method anymore. So if it's hooked to a 5 volt or 12 volt control circuit, and you're feeding minimal power through it. So these are tungsten contact switches, and they can handle easy 3 amps of hot, and we're just working on certification to 4 amps of hot switching power, and then up to 100 watts. And so they can, at the load they're going to actually see on a normal control circuit, they're going to do 10 million cycles without any issues at all. So you're talking about really, really high reliability, and then you've got redundancy in that circuit as well.
What are some of the more common applications? Because we see liquid level sensing, we see some of these terms and some of these applications that are out there.
You've kind of got 3 things. When you look at specifics of Spot On and kind of comparable products, a lot of that is valve. When you've got a valve actuation control system on a valve, and then you've also got liquid level detection. That's kind of the primary targets if you look at something with similar footprints. So we designed footprints that the industry is used to, and so if you're using a valve actuation control that's not specific to one brand, that takes different types, where they're not, the valve actuation control doesn't have its own branded integrated sensor, that it's made to use different company sensors, then Spot On's a great thing to look at. And so you've got different versions there. So if you've got an actuation system that has a cam with magnets that you can set for different positions, you can use a standard Prox version of the Spot On line. If your system uses one that's just picking up without the magnets, just picking up the actual valve and the gate and sensing that steel, then we have a steel sensor version. So you got options there. And then when you talk about liquid level detection, the traditional way to do it, some people have multiple sensors mounted at different heights. So when the float gets there, it trips this sensor, and change those resolutions. What's unique about this line, so we have the standard Prox that will do that. You can mount at multiple locations, and when the float's there and the magnet's there, it'll be on, and when it leaves, either direction, it'll be off. The unique thing in our product line is what we call a bistable latcher, and so it creates something that you can have a single point beyond detection. So you can set a high level detection or low level, right? When it's down here in a normal zone, it's in one state. When it goes and trips that, say it's high level detection, that float trips that sensor. When it travels past the sensor and it's at that high level or in that high level zone, the sensor doesn't go back to the first state. It stays in that high level state until that float and magnet goes back by in the other direction. Then it will change back to that normal condition. So it actually latches in one position or other depending on when the float or the magnet passes the sensor. And that's also completely rated to the extreme environments. And then kind of that third zone is just a general automation control. So if you're not talking about liquid level detection at all, but you're in an explosive environment and you've got machinery equipment and you need to pick up when your sled is at a certain point, when that robotic arm has moved past and then moves back the other direction, but you need it to be certain. There's a lot of sensors that do that. There are not a lot that are rated for that high level explosive environment that can do that.
So you've talked about explosion proof. Talk about some of the ratings that Spot On carries.
Okay, so there's two kind of ways to go at the explosion proof atmosphere, or the explosive atmosphere. So you can go kind of the explosion proof route, or you can go intrinsic safety. So intrinsic safety, when you've got certain types of devices, they're not going to pass explosion proof, because explosion proof, they literally try to fill your device with gas and blow it up. Right, so certain types of sensors can't handle that, and they're never going to. So then you have to go, for those you go the intrinsic safety route, which means you have to limit the energy entering into that explosive atmosphere. So you have to buy other components on your control system outside the explosive atmosphere, dumb all the current and voltage and everything down to a certain level before it can go in, so that the energy in the environment can't cause an explosion. We just went and made it easy for the user, right? We just made the device explosion proof. So you're sending, we've got conduit versions, so you're hardwired conduit right to the device, and now you don't have to protect that current. You're not worried about long runs of cable that get capacitive inductive spikes. The contacts can handle the capacitive inductive spikes, and that energy amount in the environment is contained within the conduit and the sensor is completely explosion proof at the highest level. So it's UL and CUL, covers all the Americas, right? They're North America there, with your UL and CUL rating at the 1203, Class 1 Div 1, the most explosive environment they have. So not only can it just be in the environment sometimes, it's made to fully, its whole life, live in the most explosive, the most flammable environment that they define. And then we carried that rating over and got the counterpart rating for Europe. So it's got IECEX and ATEX explosion proof rating at the highest level as well.
Talk about how it compares price-wise.
So when you're talking lower volume and you look at a comparable product, meaning it's comparable in stainless steel housing construction, full wide use of temperature range, great solvent resistance in the wiring and the insulation and the cable options that are offered, and then also rated at the very highest level for ATEX, ICX, and also the UL, CUL. It's not comparable. At lower volume, we're blowing the competition out of the water when it comes to price, because we're not then adding on. If you're buying our model with all the ratings it comes with, and we don't charge an upcharge for every single different rating, or you want a little wider temp range, it already covers a wide temp range. And our IOM spec sheet shows all the ratings and all the temp range where it's usable. And so you get all that. Everybody gets all of that. And so you kind of get that with a custom shop. HSI has been doing niche stuff and custom stuff in oil and gas and medical implantable and aerospace and all these demanding environments for 50 years, right? And we're used to doing small orders. And so we built the product line to be bought at that volume at a great price.